So over the past couple months, I think I've been pretty vocal when it comes to my thoughts and opinions of iOS. As far as I'm concerned, the only reason in this country to have an iPhone is because you want iMessage. Consider subscribing. For me, I know there are a lot of other people who have other reasons, so forth and so forth, but I firmly believe Android is a better operating system. But a few months ago, I said, hey, let me try this iOS thing again and see how I feel about it. So at the time, I had an old iPhone 6 and I acquired this when my brother upgraded his phone. I actually think this was a phone that I actually repaired myself many years ago before Apple started locking down repair components and things. I had to put another screen on this. And in fact, this might have been the one that I also had to put in a new haptic motor or haptic engine, whatever it's called. But yeah, definitely have had this iPhone 6 for a while. And I said, okay. It's not great. I'm using this phone really only for iMessage and phone calls, but it's kind of slow. It's old, as it should be. The battery life isn't great. And as a result of probably some software issues, there are some artifacts that start showing on the screen at certain random periods of time. So I said, okay, I will invest a little bit of money in getting something a little more modern. Not too much though. And that's where I ended up with this little guy. So this is the iPhone SE second generation. I bought this phone for $85, so that's including the cost of the phone, tax, and shipping. And then I bought this case from Walmart for around $5. So let's just say I'm $90 all in the iMessage ecosystem. And I was satisfied with it. I said, hey, it's cool, does the job. If I lose or damage the phone, I won't be too upset. $90, whatever. I will say that since it's an iPhone, and I had an iPhone 12 previously, I had gotten kind of accustomed to Face ID and Face Unlock and all that. So I said, the home button works, and it's fine. But, and I'm kind of missing it. But the big thing that I really didn't like was that little port down there, which if we shine the light on it, there we go. Lightning. So Lightning is on this, of course, as well as on this iPhone 6. And even though I was only using this phone really to send messages and make phone calls when I'm not in the house, because I have a Mac, which is right here, and I can place and receive and send messages and phone calls and all that on this through Wi-Fi connection. So I really didn't need to do much with the phone as long as I'm at home. I got curious. I said, hey, well, I do kind of want to see what this whole USB-C craze is on the iPhone, which I'm talking like a stand right now, or maybe like I just discovered something when I've long since been complaining about the fact that USB-C is on a lot of Apple products, but for some reason they choose to not put it on the phone. Not to mention that I've been using USB-C on countless Android devices since 2016. Which is this phone right here, which is a Sony Xperia, which I got back in 2016. So for 7 years, I've been using USB-C for my cell phones, with the exception of the iPhone. But I unboxed this the other day, and I have been using it. And I was a little hesitant to get a larger phone, because like I said, I've gotten accustomed to using something like this for the iPhone. But what I did notice is that because of the small size, when I was out and about doing things, there were times where I just didn't even want to respond to people's messages. I said, this phone is too small. I'll just wait until I get back home to do it. So I said, hey, let me give the iPhone 15 a try. I made a whole nother video about how this phone, which is the global version of the iPhone 15, is different than the United States version of the iPhone 15. Mainly, just to sum it up, this has a physical SIM card still and does not have millimeter wave 5G. Pretty much the only big differences. I'm sure there might be some other ones at the firmware level in terms of supported bands and stuff like that. Not super important for the basis of this conversation. So, like I said, been using this for a couple days now. Got this Best Buy Insignia branded case, which, whatever. And I like it. And as I and other people have definitely pointed out, specs don't mean anything. So even though like I'm on Apple's website right now, and maybe I'll have something up on the screen right now, probably not. Sure, I'll just keep my hands over here periodically. Yes, Going from the A8 to the A13 to the A16, improvements in performance. Flipping them over, going from an 8 megapixel camera to a 12 megapixel camera to a advanced dual camera system consisting of a 48 megapixel main and an ultra wide camera. Yes, camera quality definitely has improved. Optical zoom options, 1x. Optical zoom options, 1x. Optical zoom options, 0.5x, 1x, and 2x. So definitely some improvements there. Car crash detection, roadside assistance via satellite, improved battery life. That's one thing that I definitely have noticed already in the few days that I've been using this, that this says it supports up to 20 hours of video playback, 13 and 11, and I'm pretty sure that's just, we put the phone, on Wi-Fi or whatever and play back some Apple TV stuff or, whatever the test is. Useless in the sense of what actual use case situations are, but you got to measure it somehow, and as long as it's consistent with their testing, then I'm confident in saying the battery life on this phone is better than the battery life on this phone, which is better than the battery life on this phone. The big thing, which really got me interested, which I think I kind of pointed out already, and I'm just scrolling through Apple's website over here, is the fact that this little guy now has a USB-C port. When I went back to using this phone, which I had not been using an iPhone for months, having to have a single lightning cable just hanging around really bothered me. Was it in the way? No. But it was just something else that I had to, I need to charge my phone. Where's my lightning cable? Of course, I could have went and purchased more lightning cables to have throughout the house, but I didn't want to do that when I had USB-C cables throughout the house. So this gaining USB-C definitely is a positive thing. I've complained about it before. USB 2 speeds in terms of data throughput should not still exist. This has USB 2. This has USB 2. And I know these both use the Lightning connector, which USB 3 over Lightning was a thing. Only brought to the iPad though for some reason. But USB 2 does not need to exist, especially when the transition has been made to USB-C. Apple has decided that USB 3 is a pro level feature. I'm not going to go into the full details, but there are non-pro iPads that support versions of USB 3. So I don't get their logic. Yeah, it's a 5G phone. I don't need 5G, but 5G, 4G, 4G. Stronger glass, MagSafe, storage capacities have gotten larger. This, I think, is 32 maybe. I mean, I don't use really much storage on the iPhone anyway, but we're going to go 32, 64, 128. Don't need that much storage on the iPhone since I'm still using an Android device for a lot of other stuff. But with this improved camera, I probably will start taking some more pictures, maybe even recording some videos. Super Retina XDR display, Retina HD displays. So I might want some videos on this just to see how good it actually looks. But it is what it is. Like I said, I still use an Android device for a lot of my activities. So even though it has a good screen, we'll see how much I actually use it. 4.7-inch displays, 6.1. Dynamic Island, HDR display, 2,000,000:1 contrast ratio. This is an OLED display as opposed to two LCD panels. 1,000 nits max peak brightness versus 625, 500. Yes, it's a bigger phone. These two are relatively similar in size. And other hardware stuff, camera stuff, video recording stuff, front-facing camera stuff, carrier, so forth and so forth. Bluetooth 5.3, Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 5. Kind of interesting that, Wi-Fi 6E isn't a thing on this little guy. And that's pretty much it. I could keep going. I am still scrolling. As I mentioned before, in terms of the SIM card situation, the phone meant or created for all other countries besides the United States still has physical SIM card like this one, physical SIM cards. If I had the United States version of the iPhone 15, eSIM only sucks. And that's pretty much it. So I am going to continue daily driving this phone as my daily driving iPhone. Meanwhile, I'll still have an Android device, most likely the Pixel 8 at the moment, to see what that's all about. But let me know, what do you think? Have you made a recent upgrade? Why do you use iOS? As I said, for me, it is really just iMessage. FaceTime, sure, but I don't really FaceTime out in public. So having a Mac which I'm only using at home anyway, would still provide that same functionality. So iMessage is really the only reason that I have an iPhone. After a few days of using this, so far I'm okay with it. And even though it was way more expensive than what I paid for this little guy, hopefully I will see that it was worth the upgrade.